my name is Fraser. This is my channel, Springboard Thought. I talk about books here, and I've got another weekend reading here, most of which, again, appears to be comics, graphic novels, however you want to classify them. The first two are Vinland Saga Omnibuses 3 and 4, so I did continue on with them, and I have enjoyed it. It hasn't blown me away by any means. The most interesting aspects is when it's like educational on actual things that happened back then, at least ostensibly, that's what it appears to be purporting as. And there's little subsections of saying like, in such and such time, this is what's going on. It's also very cavalier about like actual history taking place in terms of like Vikings being like sexual assaulting women and pillaging and, you know, doing the things that they did back then, and lots of like gore. It's very brainy, like you can see people's viscera and brains and like striking and stuff like that. I would say it's more competently written than lots of comics / manga. Like it's headier, more cerebral, but yeah. I got up to the point where basically it's the end of the first major arc, and it sees the character go through quite a lot of things. It's very like gotcha moment stuff where it's like, oh, you thought the story was going this way, and now it's going a completely different way. So some people will be interested in that, some people won't. Mainly for me, it was kind of meh. It's very like serialized reading where they're trying to keep you engaged, have wow moments and stuff like that. His story is vaguely captivating as like somebody who is trying to avenge his father, and he ends up being paired with the man that killed his father, and anytime he does something good enough or whatever for the clan, he challenges the same guy to a fight. He always loses. But there's like this weird reciprocal respect, father-son almost relationship that develops, so it's a little bit more nuanced than that. And all the while they are trying to escalate a conflict between Britain and the Vikings, and the father figure of the main character, the leader of the band, has like this, I don't know, master plan, I guess. He's got his own ideas of what should be happening with this war. The prince comes into the picture of the Danish, and there's a plot around that as well, and it starts revolving around those three characters, essentially. The prince, the main protagonist, and that father figure leading the band. And it goes places, basically. Like, it's a fun enough romp, but it isn't, you know, blowing my mind or anything. The next thing I read was Tower of God Volume 2, and this was another fun little romp thing. It's about a guy who goes to a mystical, magical tower thing that is completely massive in scale, that we're never really told what, but people actually live in the tower, and there's a challenge. Why there are challenges, we have no idea, but there's tests on every floor, and the idea is to ascend to the top of the tower. He's in it to search for his friend who went into the tower for no reason at all, it seemed like, and we don't know what the land outside of this tower is either, so it's very like, just roll with it. Like, not much is explained. The tests are kind of fun. There's like puzzles and physical challenges, and it feels very much like each character is like Naruto, where they have like a special ability type thing that's happening, like a special ability, whether it's like mystical, magical, or like a really good fighter or really good technique, or they're super smart, stuff like that, and they're all competing, and some of them die, some of them have to make it. Why they're ascending to the thing, again, not really an idea why. It's some sort of prestige is like made, I guess. I don't know. He's got a sword that I guess is passed down from the king of the tower, of which we know nothing about. And the daughter of this guy apparently is in the competition and is really interested in the sword that he was given in the first volume. And we got up to a point where basically that happened, and they're the sons of the jihad, which is kind of problematic, possibly, like co-opting culture slash, is it actually like what it means in this world, or just the person's name? Lots of things are just not explained, so you just gotta roll with it. V for Vendetta, I gave this 4 stars. I think everybody's kind of familiar with this. I had seen the movie. I didn't even know I owned this till I came upon it. This was fine. I gave it 4 stars. It exceeds expectations insofar as it relates to like commercial comic fiction. Like it's Alan Moore, so it's obviously a little bit more cerebral. It mostly follows the storyline that I know in the comics, though it diverges somewhat. I don't like the artwork. I don't like anything to do with the artwork, the penciling, the lettering, anything like that. It's very like, you know, old school in that way. But the story is interesting, and in terms of like dumbing down, I guess, anarchy and state control, fascism versus left, and, you know, constructing a future in which fascism again kind of rises, almost like Handmaid's Tale type situation in the UK. And then, you know, this man of dissent who attempts to galvanize the country into rising up. It's fine. I wouldn't say it's by far or any means close to his best story or anything, but it's probably better reading than most comics. Like if you pick up Superman and then you pick up this, the distinction is quite clear. Rurouni Kenshin's Volume 2, like an omnibus. I'm not going to dwell on that. I think I explained it last time, but it's about a samurai in the Meiji era who is like gets embroiled in a found family type situation. He was a revolutionary swords person who like killed many people, was very renowned, and now he's a peaceful guy who's developed techniques to not kill people. And for some reason or another, there's always fights to do with him or the people that he cares about, and people trying to challenge him and kill him and things like that. And, you know, the fight continues. I give it 3 stars. It was fine. I've seen the anime, I think all of it. Never read the manga, and then just decided to do so. So I've been loosely following that. The star of the week, by far, though, was finishing Blindsight, which I guess is part of a duology, Firefall, by Peter Watts. I gave this 5 stars. It's in the vein of, like, you know, Solaris and other exceptional sci-fi that is more cerebral and definitely more idea books, but the prose work can actually carry a story, unlike some people. Philip K. Dick sometimes, Isaac Asimov sometimes. Sometimes idea books are just poorly represented, written, and kind of crap with prose. This is not that. This is definitely steeped in horror. I did not realize I was stepping into like Event Horizon type territory. It is a first contact story that is very much different than most. Essentially, there's like a web thing appears above the earth, and it seems to telegraph that the earth has been scanned, and they are going on this journey in this ship while asleep, like in pods and whatnot, as they typically do in sci-fi, to the source of it, to do first contact. Only when they get there, the creature is not anything like they thought it would be. All of the humans on board is got like a transhuman bent. The protagonists are unlikable. There's no like glow up, normal sort of come to realization and traditional arc in the book. It is all about confronting ideas around intelligence, free will, and that being cleverly, I think, baked into the actual plot of the book in a staggered kind of moment that really onboards the reader into, you know, figuring out what is actually going on in the same time as our protagonist, who is a person who has basically been lobotomized as a child because he had some sort of disease, if I remember correctly. And so his being saved has been it's altered his personality, his way of being, and he has a different job on the ship than anybody knows. To give it away, I think, would be a spoiler, but he's different than everybody else. He observes everybody as like a system, so can manipulate them and get to know them, but not really connect in an empathetic way. The only reason I would ever give this book lower than 5 stars is what most people cite in this book, which is the vampire on board, literally a vampire, which is a little too fantastical, I guess. It is a hard sci-fi book, so everything is rooted in actual science, and he explains it in such a way that you're like, okay, I guess. But with the transhumanism in the book, there's open doors for this, I guess. Like, apparently vampires was a species on Earth that was rediscovered later out of the gene pool, and then they, you know, with bioengineering are able to craft him. And the reason why he's the captain is because his abilities, like his intelligence, he's a middleman a bit, essentially, to interface with the AI ship on this mission in a way that the other people are not able to. They wouldn't be able to understand or dumb down, translate, I guess, what the ship is trying to say to people, and so they need this go-between. But he's definitely like, he adds to the horror quality, of course, of the book as well. But yeah, the aliens will be nothing like you probably imagine, and they are also a vector to initiate like this larger discussion about intelligence, sapiency, and like a whole plethora of things. Like all good sci-fi and most good books, it's about many things, all things, the human condition, etc. Warfare, science, like empathy and building bridges and communication with people, how communication works, why it works for us, and what preconceived notions we have about an alien existence and how we would interface with it, all that kind of stuff. It is just phenomenal, fantastic stuff. I connected with it immediately, love the vibes, though it was a little shocking, I guess, going into a horror book, not knowing that it was a horror book. Definitely is. Definitely will read the next book as well. And yeah, just overall fantastic stuff. You know, beyond 5 stars. I read A Minor Chorus, another 5-star book by Billy Ray Belcourt. This was 4 hours on audio. I don't think it was him narrating, but the narrator was quite good. It doesn't say who it was. This is a auto-fiction novel-ish thing. Like it's a metafiction book, ostensibly anyway, because the narrator is not named, but we assume that it is Billy Ray Belcourt because it is an author, and because he is from the same place as Billy Ray Belcourt, and because he is queer in the same way. But all these things are not confirmed, and this liminal space is definitely intentional for the novel. Essentially, the whole thing is quite clever, I think, because it is him, ostensibly him anyway, getting the impetus to write the novel. Like his, I don't know, his journey in trying to figure out what his thesis / this book will be is the entire point of the novel. And so there's not really, like, there is a through line in that he learns what he's going to write about, I guess. But it's also a minor course in that it's about all these people on the res and other places of his life, well rendered by him, but then those voices kind of emerging out of it in such a way that it is not spelled out for you at the end what he is writing about, why he is writing, or like it doesn't end with him even picking up the pen or whatever. It ends with like a thought. It is very like Billy Belcourt as well, in such that it's like very lyrical, almost purple in some ways. It's very situational and like fitting for his personality type. So in like an auto-fictional way, it even is augmented. The piece is in like, you know, form meets function, and in metacognitive ways interrogating this aspect at the same time as the author's interrogating at the same time the author within the fiction is interrogating it. So I just really like that stuff. Like it's always like a pleasant thing to be engaged with the story all of the time, because you're trying to figure out what is real, what isn't real, and why does it matter. The same questions that, you know, ostensibly this author is worrying about, or at least what Belcourt wants you to be thinking about. I think it's well crafted enough to, you know, assume that. It has lots of great characters, there's some phenomenal dialogue and fantastic musings on all the things that he puts in his poetry as well. So if you're a fan of him as a person, this will really resonate as well. Yeah, just completely successful. I think 5 out of 5 stars. Short and sweet too. It gets, you know, in your brain and out at this right time. It doesn't overdwell on these musings. And I think that's very clever. Like it's, yeah, just a good work. I then read Ghost Rider Volume 1, Unchained, by Benjamin Percy, and this is like every Ghost Rider story I've ever read, basically. It's about Johnny Blaze, who turns into the Ghost Rider, except in the beginning he's like trapped in this town, and he has been in a car accident, he doesn't know he's the Ghost Rider, and it's about, you know, the emergence of that and how he's been sort of subdued. And then from there it is sort of like a trip across America where it's like Monster of the Week type thing. It was fine, and I wouldn't continue with it after that. Then I read Batman Superman World's Finest Volume 1, The Devil, Nezha, so Nezha, maybe? I'm not sure. By Mark Waid. This was better than I expected. It has Batman, Superman, and other people embroiled in this new character, as far as I can tell. A supervillain emerges that poisons Superman's blood in such a way that he starts hallucinating and starts like thinking friends are enemies and, you know, stuff like that. But this is really just the impetus to introduce the new supervillain, the sorcerer Nezha, whoever, to kind of like introduce a magical standpoint, because I guess magic hurts Superman. I didn't know this, but yeah, all the super people can be, you know, harmed by magic, but are otherwise pretty invulnerable, I guess. But it actually is a fun storyline. Like, it's above the cut, I think, and there's a really good twist ending. The artwork is phenomenal. I think it's the same person who was paired with Scott Snyder on Batman, like the owl person run, whatever that one was. I really enjoyed that. And yeah, there's just a lot of twists and turns. It's really gonzo, pretty wild. You again have to really roll with some things because it stretches incredulity. There's even time travel. Every time they're like traveling with a super person, Supergirl, Superboy, Superman, whatever, they all like hang there in like a T position. You would think that they'd have to like cradle them up and then like go really fast, right? Not like drag them. You'd think it'd be very slow, but I don't know. It was just weird. But yeah, it was fun, and I would read the next one. Daredevil, volumes 1 and 2. Oh, here's the Ghost Rider. I could have held it up, but I neglected to. Sorry about that. And then these are the Daredevil covers, which are, I think, very excellent. And these really turned me around on Daredevil. If you've ever read Daredevil, he's got basically one storyline. He's a tortured Catholic who was in an accident. I think it was like radiation waste or something like that, is being dragged, or not dragged, but driven through the streets, and it gets in an accident. When he's a boy, he saves this person from colliding with the truck, but the chemicals get on him and it blinds him. But then he develops like radar senses and other things going on, and he becomes a superhero. But his whole shtick is that he's not above, you know, doing violence to people. He's kind of like Batman-ish, is how you could kind of describe him. He's not rich. He's a lawyer. He's all about justice, Christianity, being moral, not killing people, but not being bad at like, or not feeling bad about hurting people that are doing you know, bad things. His arch nemesis is always the Kingpin, who's this big crime boss guy. And he is apparently the mayor of this New York City now. Didn't know that. And apparently Matt Murdock, the Daredevil guy, the protagonist, used to be a mayor as well, and then an assistant mayor. I only knew him as like an attorney. I think I saw him maybe as a district attorney. I don't know, lots happens when you don't read for years. And this story, the first one, is very typical. It's like a 3-star, technically, you told a Daredevil story. It was like every single other time, basically. He's a tortured Catholic. He feels bad about beating people up. He accidentally may have killed somebody. We don't know. Could be a setup, that kind of thing. He's tortured. He's going to the, you know, asking for advice with these flashbacks of him just starting out, going to a church in which he, does confession and stuff like that. It's very like, yeah, any other story ever. However, at the end, he ostensibly puts down the mask and stops being Daredevil, which also has happened about a billion times. So it wasn't really of note until now, I guess, because this story is really great. Why I started reading it was it made the Eisner Awards. It was nominated, I don't think it won, for Best Ongoing Series, so I thought that it must get better. So I at least tried the next one, and I'm glad I did. With him putting his mask down, actually, it became a very like humane story. The existentialism actually worked. It was very well done. The plotting was really exceptional. Like, it was more riveting seeing him as Matt Murdock trying to figure stuff out, not being Daredevil, ironically, being far more interesting than when he is and just like beating people up and feeling bad about it, basically. There is like a romance plot that is injected in the first volume. There's a cop that is hunting him, and we see the fallout of the ramifications of the end of the first volume with him, as well as more on Kingpin being the mayor, which he also has like a surprising arc in it as well. So it's just, yeah, it's kind of, yeah, it just nailed exactly what I wanted from where the story was going to go, and didn't expect it to, because it never really does go anywhere. It's always like, I'm not going to be Daredevil. Oh, something bad's happening. I'm going to be Daredevil again, right? This has an entire arc, like 5 or 6 issues, of him not being Daredevil, and it being compelling and interesting stuff. So I'll definitely continue with it. This is volumes 1 and 2 of 8, I think. So it might be a long haul, but... And that's it. That's my week in reading. Hope you've been well, hope you've been reading things, taking care of yourselves, and dealing with the heat. I will see you next week, hopefully. Seems like I'm back in the swing of things anyway, but you never know. Anyway, I'll see you later.